You mentioned employee advocacy and how you can kind of have your employees be a marketing arm for you, even if they're not in sales. Talk to us a little bit about how you can do that on LinkedIn and how you can ask your teams to do that on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah. So imagine you've got an internship program, right? You're trying to attract really good talent for your internship program. So why wouldn't you have your university relations team make sure that their profile has all the juicy stuff about the company and why they love it. Folks who are involved in all the interview process, because you always bring people from the business to different events so that they can, the students can understand who they could potentially be working with, right? And then just in general, employees that are showing up and really care about the purpose, the work that company is doing. Like, why wouldn't you encourage that? That's just a great way to grow your reach, but also the company pages don't do so well by themselves. And so if an employee reposts a company page, that's going to help that company page with their reach and engagement even more.
Welcome to today's Heart of the Hustle. I am here with LinkedIn expert, Tamika.
Hello, how are you?
I'm so glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here.
Right, so tell us more about you.
So LinkedIn is my world. LinkedIn is my jam. I spend most of my time there. And I've been doing it for years. And now I'm out here helping businesses strengthen their pipeline and make more money.
Yeah, I love LinkedIn. And I feel like with all the social media, the different platforms that are out there, LinkedIn has been the one where I feel like the most substantial conversations are still happening.
I would agree with you on that one. And the reason why I like LinkedIn is the fact that they invest so much in their trust and security. So they are doing the things that need to take place in order to verify that people are real people and not just bots and, all the spammy accounts. There's still some out there, but they're still, they're proactively trying to mitigate that.
Tell us more. How did you get into this? How did you get into loving the world of LinkedIn and teaching other people how to use it?
Oh, gosh. So I joined LinkedIn back in April of 2006. Yes, I'm nerdy. I know the date. Okay.
Can you even look that up? Is that somewhere in your profile?
Yeah.
I'm going to go look.
You can look that up, and they will actually send you anniversary emails. So I got a happy 19th LinkedIn-versary email this year, and it was like, where's the T-shirt?
I want a T-shirt.
I need a T-shirt.
I want a T-shirt. I want a mug.
Right.
I want something. Maybe for 20.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I didn't think about that. Okay. Positive. So I started it back then, just like everybody else looking for another job. And then fast forward in my career, I switched over from doing expatriate taxes. I know. To doing program management. So I was consulting, traveling, all the things. And so they gave us access to Sales Navigator, which I was then using, but using it as a search engine like everybody else. And that's LinkedIn's sales solution. Okay. And then I quit that job after 13 years with no plan and was like, well, who am I if I don't have this big company name associated with me? Right?
Because you were at one of the big firms.
Yeah, one of the big four.
Yeah.
And I needed to stand out from the rest. So I just started geeking out on LinkedIn. I was volunteering with different organizations. They wanted me to help them with their LinkedIn. People started reaching out and asking me to update their profiles and help them with their content and paying me. Like, I wasn't proactively asking for this. They were like, we will pay you. Oh, I think we're on to something here.
I think we have a business.
Right. But, I kept working in corporate, and then I started working for a Fortune 500 company where I ran their LinkedIn Sales Navigator program. And they had about 3,500 licenses globally. And so I really got into Sales Navigator and just totally geeked out. And even though I'm not in a sales enablement position for a corporation anymore, I still love it.
Yeah. Well, and you kind of struck out on your own and said, this is something that all sales forces need. Anybody in sales needs to know how to use this tool, not only LinkedIn, but Sales Navigator in particular.
I would even say anyone in a revenue generating role. So when you think about revenue generating, you've got sales, you've got customer success because they're all about retention and upselling, but then you also have marketing. But then there's also talent acquisition. You got to get the right people in. So there's just so many people who are directly and indirectly associated with revenue generating.
Yeah. Tell me more about Sales Navigator. What does it do?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So let me.
Here she goes. Here she goes. Here's the nerd about to geek out and go. Tell us about Sales Navigator.
So Sales Navigator essentially helps you build relationships at scale. The name in and of itself, I believe, is so misleading. Sales Navigator. That implies we're going to get sales because I searched somebody. I met Joe Schmo at this networking event. I came home and I looked up Joe Schmo. Where's my sale? No, it doesn't work like that. There is work behind it. And so Sales Navigator is essentially taking all of their LinkedIn's proprietary content that is user generated, because when you create a profile, you put in the information.
Okay.
Not LinkedIn. When you start engaging with people's comments and posts and all the things and posting your own content, that's all user generated. And so Sales Navigator takes that information and gives it to you in a totally different way so that you can be efficient and effective in building these relationships at scale, meaning you can create lead lists for leads and accounts, and you can automate it, set it up so that it is giving you information like buyer intent and things like that when you want it. So it's definitely, there's just so much I could really go. We could go.
We could be here all day.
We could be here all day. And yeah, but it's just a great way to see a snapshot of who it is that you're prospecting, or even who you're trying to sustain and maintain a relationship with, because you can get alerts on the homepage that basically say, oh, Sherry posted blah, blah, blah. And I can click on it. I don't have to get out of Sales Navigator because it'll show my LinkedIn on the side. I can see, I can engage with you there, and I can keep on doing what I need to do. Or if I don't have time, I can flag it. And when I do have time, I'll come back to that, all my bookmarked ones, and I can start doing my engagement or outreach there. But it just helps you do everything in a seamless position. And if you're lucky enough to have an enterprise license, then you can actually share information that you're doing within Sales Navigator with coworkers who may have a license, or right back to your CRM. So there's a lot of magic there.
So you can prospect by what their user-generated content is. So in other words, you could say, I want to find anybody who likes cats because I'm a veterinarian.
You could, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then is there automated outreach to people on Sales Navigator? Like when I'm getting sort of those sales, right, emails from people, which I get probably 10 a day. Are those coming from Sales Navigator?
No. So there are a lot of third parties out there that you can sign up with that will do that automation. I encourage people not to do that, because people know. We know that it's not real. We know that you did not take the time to look at my profile. Like this one individual reached out to me. Well, actually, they weren't trying to sell me anything. It's someone I was already connected to, okay? And they picked up on a conversation we had, and they were like, hey, I saw this job posting at XYZ. Could you refer me for that? I'm sorry. I don't work for XYZ company anymore. I cannot. All you needed to do was take 2 seconds and click on my profile and say, okay. Okay. Maybe she knows someone there who can refer me. But I shut it down.
Yeah. Yeah. So how do you do outreach to people using Sales Navigator? So if I find someone who loves cats and I'm a veterinarian, I don't know why this example came up, but we're just going to go with it. So how do you reach out to them on Sales Navigator? Does it give you any better ways to reach out to people?
Well, so you have what are called in-mail credits. So you can get in-mail credits with the different LinkedIn subscriptions as well, but you only get a few. And I believe with premium, you get like 15 or something like that. And that might actually be premium company. I'm not sure. They've created so many different levels now. But with Sales Navigator, you get 50 in-mail credits. And so with that, you can reach essentially anybody. Second degree connections, those are friends of friends. And then third degree connections, those are people who are on the periphery. There might be some opportunity there, but they're still people you can reach out to.
Via DM.
Well, so it starts out as an in-mail.
Okay.
And if they accept that and start engaging back with you, then you start direct messaging one another.
Okay.
But that allows you to really be thoughtful and meaningful in your outreach. And that's where you see the difference between the automated third party and something that an individual would actually take the time to write.
Yeah, one of the things that I always advise people on when they're connecting with people on social media is don't just stick to the DMs or the in-mails, right? Go to their page, connect with them there, like their content, reshare their content, right? Comment on what they're doing, because that's going to build, you're going to be like, oh, wait, who's this? And they took the time to actually engage with me. It's so funny how people miss that. Is that important on LinkedIn as well?
It's super important because you can do that through Sales Navigator. So if you have a Sales Navigator license, really there's no need to log on to or go to the LinkedIn platform, because you can do pretty much everything through there except post. Okay. And the engagement with other people's content is so key, because I could post 30 videos this month and get not a single like. That is a key that, this must not be resonating. But in theory, I might see them at an event and they say, oh my God, I love all those videos you've been doing this month. They're great. Well, why didn't you say something? Where's the thumbs up?
Help me out.
Yeah.
Come on.
Say something. Is this on? No, So yeah.
That happens a lot. It's interesting. So there's someone who is trying to sell me something right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they've gone into my DMs. This is on Facebook, but it's the same idea, right? Went out to my DMs, and he's doing a very good job, because he said, hey, I went through and I evaluated he sells like YouTube management, right? I evaluated your YouTube, right? Made me a little video of like, here's all the things I think you could change. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. Okay. Just another spammer. But he's starting to get my attention because he's liking and commenting on everything I post. And I'm like, so every time I look in my feed, his name's coming up. And I'm like, all right, so now he's not just sending me a cold message, but is now also trying to build a relationship by staying in touch with me on an ongoing basis. And now I'm like, let me go back to that. Let me go back to that email. What exactly did they say? Because now you're making an effort, right? It's, and it makes such a difference.
And it goes along with the whole concept of know, like, trust, right? You know who he is, and you're beginning to like who or the services that he could potentially provide, right? And there's this trust that's being built because you're thinking about, I need to go back and see exactly what he was saying. So I think that it's huge. And most people, I don't know why they don't get it.
I think we just get busy. And I think it's such an important, I think engagement on social media is so important, whether it's LinkedIn or any other, right? It's not about posting and running. And I think we get so busy, we forget, just because we connected with someone, that we have to nurture that relationship. And people don't see social media as a place to nurture those relationships. And I think especially on LinkedIn, I think LinkedIn is becoming a place where we can nurture on a much deeper level than I see on like Facebook and Instagram. I feel like are starting to become very like, this is awesome, great job, right? Where LinkedIn, I posted something recently and someone reposted it on my behalf that does a lot more on LinkedIn. And people were leaving these long, like really thoughtful comments about what I was saying. And I was like, wow, it made me step up my game in, okay, if I want to build a relationship with this person, I can't just be like, hey, that was awesome. Hey, nice job. They're engaging in a real conversation with me.
Yep. Yeah.
But then I need to step up, but it requires time. And I don't think people bring that time into the time that they plan for marketing and sales.
No, they don't. And it doesn't need to take a long time. I mean, even if when I first started out doing the Sales Navigator program management work, I would put on my calendar the first hour of every day. It was just hardcore, responses, responding to comments and notifications, all the things. And then gradually over time, that 60 minutes went to 30 minutes, down to 15 minutes.
Because we get busy.
Well, we get busy, but I'm more efficient in what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? So it's no longer, I just scroll aimlessly like I do on Instagram and, you just, you doom scroll, right? Now, when I'm on LinkedIn, I'm very purposeful in my scroll. So I tell people, curate the experience on LinkedIn that you want. You can do that. And I know this is where the geek in me is going to come out. And we'll have to have a whole other conversation about this piece. But if you don't do anything or take anything from this conversation, go into your settings and privacy today and go through every single thing. Curate the experience you want. If you don't want to see political stuff, disable it. If you don't want Microsoft to be collecting your data, disable it. If you don't want to help train their AI, disable it. You can do that, So that's a soapbox of mine. Yeah, I don't know if you could tell.
But I don't think any of the other platforms allow you to have that level of control over what content you see in your experience.
I think they do.
Yeah.
They've just made it so complex and convoluted. Like I tried to do that with Facebook. One day I was like, okay, I have an hour. I'm going to go through all these settings. And I would have to reread a statement several times to make sure I really understood what they were saying. So it's like you give up after a while. Whereas I feel like LinkedIn is very straightforward in what they're telling you this is going to do.
Yeah. So tell us, how do you work with sales teams to help them really utilize in LinkedIn and Sales Navigator?
Well, there's several things that I can do for sales teams. The first thing that I really encourage them to engage me on is an audit. That way I can come in and assess how they're showing up and identify those gaps, come up with the recommendations that they need. And that's even from a company perspective, right? So looking at maybe your sellers, none of your sellers have a company banner on their profile. Well, okay, that's a problem. You're selling me this software and you can't even recognize them on your banner image. That's a problem, right? And so making sure that they have the right content on with respect to whatever it is that they're selling, right? But then there's also the training aspect, training them on the basics of Sales Navigator so we can then get to the strategic part. And what I really like to do is getting to those deep dive or very deep strategy sessions with account teams that have their sales folks as well as their customer success folks, so we can talk about all the cross-pollination that they should be doing and how they can actually go deeper and wider in those accounts so that they can create larger pipelines, right? And then there's that ongoing support. So I'm always there. I consider myself to be part of the team, not a third party.
Well, and I know for mid-sized businesses, large businesses can probably afford to have so many licenses that LinkedIn helps them. But those smaller businesses that might not have as many, it's nice to have you to be able to call.
Yes. And mid-sized businesses, depending on how many licenses they have, they may only get pooled support. There's only so many people that can respond to 100 different companies, right? So the time in which it takes to get your answer might be 3 days. Whereas with me, I'm right there.
How long does it take to kind of learn Sales Navigator in order to understand it enough to be able to start using it strategically? Because there's like two different pieces, right? One, you have to know how to use the tool before you can really say, okay, how do I work this in my system?
Now, I know there's some people that probably say, oh, you can do it in a week. I'm going to be a realist here. I would give it at least a month. So 20 business days, right? But you can actually download the app and you can do it in your free time, sitting in the doctor's office, and you could, start navigating it that way. So there's all different ways that you can commit to learning it. But if someone you start out with the how to, but then you need to start applying the how to. You got to set up, you got to curate your experience. You got to set up and add in your leads, add in your accounts. That's one thing you can do is import your accounts.
Oh.
So you can a CSV file and upload all your accounts in one, fell swoop. But yeah, if you do that, then start applying it, then you'll start getting used to, okay, this is how this works. This is when I'm going to get my alerts and understand what these different buyer insights are. I'd say month 2, then you can really start working on the strategy. But you have to be committed.
Yeah. And they work with you to do that initial training. Like,
Yes.
how does it work?
Mhm.
Right. And then you also help them on probably later on, what's the strategy? Now that you understand it, how do we use this to
Yes.
help you guys really grow your business?
Absolutely. Because I'll do the training. I'll do multiple sessions if maybe certain teams or regions, want to have very specific trainings. I'll do whatever it is. Very flexible in that.
Yeah. What size companies do you usually work with?
Everything from an entrepreneur, a small business owner, to Fortune 50 companies. So it's a skill set that everybody, like I said, who's revenue generating needs to have. But I would also say, if you're in the business of people and there's relationships, you definitely should use it.
A lot of small business owners listen to this podcast. So what are the things that they should be thinking about when it comes to LinkedIn?
So if a small business owner decides that they want to get an individual license, or they want to try to get at least 10, so it's considered an enterprise, I believe, that's where they need to start, because there is a significant difference in the cost, right? And then from there, just get used to playing with it. You're not going to break it. The thing that I love about it is there are so many search filters. Like, there's a lot on LinkedIn, but they've expanded it so much on Sales Navigator that you can create custom searches and save them so that it's searching for you every week or every other day or whatever frequency you select. And then once you start doing that, understanding what you can do with the highlights. And there's a section that will show you, so say you've created a lead list, you're a small business, you've created a lead list of companies in your zip code that you want to tap into. They're going to give you highlights such as change jobs in the past 90 days. They posted on LinkedIn in the past 30 days. They share experiences with you. They follow your company, and a couple of more. One is were mentioned in the news in the past 30 or 90 days. But those key highlights allow you to be very strategic in how you spend your time. If your lead list has 100 people, and I'm speaking to the small business owner on this one, if your lead list has 100 people, click on those highlights, and you can easily go from 100 results to 3.
Does it recommend people to you? Like, hey, this person might be interesting based on the profile of the people that you already have in Sales Navigator?
Yes, there's 3 or 4, maybe even 5 system-generated lists that they provide now. And those are really good because you can, there's just so many things that people don't think of that you can do to go through a quick review of someone's profile to see if it's worth you spending time with versus, I'm going to spend one of my very valuable in-mail credits on all 3 of these people when in actuality, only one of them is active on LinkedIn this year.
Right.
And you can figure all that stuff out.
Because there's so many people with a LinkedIn profile that never engage.
Yeah. Think about how LinkedIn has grown, right? They launched in 2003, and then I started at that Fortune 500 company like a week before the world shut down because of COVID, right? And at that time, they had somewhere about, 500 million plus members. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Today, they have over 1.2 billion. So it took 17 years to get to 500 million and 5 years to get to 750 million more. So everyone is trying to be here on LinkedIn. That's where the party is. But most people don't know how to use it.
Though I did some research on this recently, and it may have changed because I feel like my data is a little bit old, but a huge portion of that growth was actually outside the States. And to me, that says that if you're in the States, it's almost better. Like the people are there, but it's not oversaturated, right? Like I think a lot of the other social media platforms are.
Oh, I agree with you on that. And then when it comes to who's actually showing up, and when I say show up, meaning they're posting their own content, whether that's reposting someone else's or commenting, that percentage is somewhere around 3%.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't you start commenting and posting so people can see you? I mean, the lion's share of the group has no idea what to do with it. So, so get ahead of the game while you can.
So one of the things I find with a lot of the platforms is some really like resharing of content, of other people's content, and some don't, right? TikTok, it's very popular. Instagram is now really leaning into that. Facebook, I find that if I reshare content, it doesn't do as well. What about on LinkedIn?
So LinkedIn will, in a sense, reward you for sharing someone else's content, as long as it's align with what you typically share and you're adding value to the rest of the feed, right? But with sharing content on LinkedIn, you can either do so immediately by reposting or you can repost with your own thoughts. And there's a debate about which one's the best way to go, but I personally always go with, or try to always go with, sharing my own thoughts, because I want my people or my network to know exactly why I'm sharing it. I'm not just cluttering their feed.
Right, right. Or you're not just sharing someone's stuff because you're trying to suck up to them because you want them to buy from them, right? It actually means something to you.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that happened, right? Like, oh, Sherry and Tamika on the podcast told me to share other people's content. So I'm just going to start randomly sharing everything.
Yeah, that can be a problem.
It happens. It happens, though. What about groups on LinkedIn? Are groups something that are effective? And I can tell you, like, there has been really from COVID, really the Facebook groups really had a huge growth from like COVID till about those first couple of years. We're seeing Facebook groups really die out now. Tell me a little bit about LinkedIn groups. It's not something that we commonly think about or talk about. So tell me about the role of groups on LinkedIn. How do they compare with what we see on Facebook?
So groups on LinkedIn are getting traction.
Okay.
There's over 1 million different groups out there, and there's probably more because there's so many that are private and unlisted, right? But I think of groups as gold because you've got a captivative audience and you go in there, you introduce yourself, you really show the value that you can add. And why wouldn't you? You can create your own. I believe you can be an administrator for up to 100 different groups. Yeah. Who's got that kind of time? I don't know. Not me. But you can if your heart desires.
That doesn't mean you should just go and create a bunch of like BS groups,
No,
right? If
no.
you can't really monitor them and you're not really going to make them mean something,
Right.
right? But one of the things we've seen, certainly in the coaching, consultant world, is people have groups that are associated with programs.
Yes.
And so I could see over time where you could get to 100 groups, right? Like I have this program in January and then another one in March and then another, right, class of whatever, right?
Right.
Those could add up pretty quickly.
They could. And, what I've noticed with a lot of different coaching programs and stuff, they may offer like a Slack channel in addition to the Facebook group. Why wouldn't you just do it all in one place? You can have LinkedIn up on another screen because most people use a couple of monitors, right? And if someone is in there, then you can go in there at that point. Right? You don't have to look at it all day, but you can still create that same Slack environment through the groups.
Right. And the same Facebook environment.
Same thing.
Because can the groups be private? So,
Yes.
and invite only or acceptance, right? You have to accept people.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to know a fun fact about the groups that I love? So, you've got in-mail messages, right? Or email credits to reach out to those who you're not connected to. Well, when you're part of a group, you can actually see who all the members are, and you can message them directly from there, even if they're second or third degree connections, because you're associated with the same group.
And you're not using your in-mail credits.
Bingo.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's a juicy tip.
Yes. And what's great about that is when the message gets to that person, it's going to say you two are in the same group or whatever the name of the group is. So that person's going to be a little bit more open to responding because y'all have something in common.
Do you find that most industries, like most industry groups, most industry associations, which are gold mines for finding people who are good leads, do you find most of them have groups on LinkedIn, or are they still sort of figuring that out?
They're still figuring it out.
Yeah.
But it's a great place to start that community. Why not have them all in one place where they are, and it's acceptable during the work hour, right? You know what I mean? Because you can sit at work and have LinkedIn up all day, but you can't, you could have Facebook up if you're in that type of role, like social media or whatever. But if you're not, if you're a finance analyst and you've got Facebook up, people are going to kind of give you the side eye.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Even salespeople.
Yeah.
Even salespeople, you can't use any other social media besides LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Often. They're usually blocked depending on the company. Most companies that I've worked in, they're all blocked except LinkedIn.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
That might be a little old school at this stage, but I think LinkedIn is definitely acceptable from a corporate, perspective.
Yes. And I would say that's because companies are wanting that employee advocacy so much. They're wanting that free advertisement, if you will. So if they create content, they encourage their employees to share it. And then this is where you're going to get the people who just repost so that it's out there, or they're going to repost with the exact same caption that 300 other employees from that company have, and then it comes across as spam. Sorry, that is a pet peeve. If they're going to give you exactly what to say, just change it into your own words.
Yeah.
It's not hard.
You mentioned employee advocacy and how you can kind of have your employees be a marketing arm for you, even if they're not in sales. Talk to us a little bit about how you can do that on LinkedIn and how you can ask your teams to do that on LinkedIn.
Oh, yeah. So imagine you've got an internship program, right? You're trying to attract really good talent for your internship program. So why wouldn't you have your university relations team make sure that their profile has all the juicy stuff about the company and why they love it, folks who are involved in all the interview process, because you always bring people from the business to different events so that they can, the students can understand who they could potentially be working with, right? And then just in general, employees that are showing up and really care about the purpose, the work that company is doing. Like, why wouldn't you encourage that? That's just a great way to grow your reach, but also the company pages don't do so well by themselves. And so if an employee reposts a company page, that's going to help that company page with their reach and engagement even more.
I've seen a lot of companies that will make the top banner for you, right? With your company information. That seems like a great branding opportunity.
It is.
Yeah.
The thing about it, though, there's some companies who will create those assets, but they don't tell people they're there.
Right. Yeah.
Like they're just supposed to know. Unless you're someone like me who starts on day one and is like, oh, well, where are my LinkedIn banner images and where can I? You have some of us that are like that, but you got to tell people, make that part of that onboarding checklist. Or is it part of make it a KPI if you want to. If you're trying to move the needle on the culture, make it one of everyone's KPIs.
Yeah.
It's easy to do.
And hire you to help train the staff on how to use LinkedIn and update their profiles, not just for sales forces, but just for everyone else, right?
Yeah.
It can be something very simple.
Very, very simple. And I've worked with the company that did a complete rebranding. And up until the rebrand, I'll never forget, I get an email and someone reaches out to me and they're like, are you read in on Brandon? I don't know who Brandon is. Read in.
What did he do? Because
Right.
that sounds juicy.
And so I reach out to my boss and I'm like, do you know who Brandon is? It's like, no, I don't. Maybe they sent it to the wrong person. And then they came back and they're like, they were telling me that there was a rebrand and that was the name of the project for the rebrand. I was like, oh, because I had no clue.
I wanted it to be something juicier than that.
Right.
It's just a rebrand. Come on.
Yeah, but it was really cool to see all the things that go into a huge rebrand. And
I have done it dozens of times with big international companies, and it is
Yes.
so complicated and so fun.
Well, yes, it was the 2 weeks that I was part of it right before the launch was amazing because they were like, we see what you do from LinkedIn and Sales Navigator, need you to come in here and help our talent acquisition with theirs. Even investor relations folks wanted help and the lobbyists folks. And then I worked with the executives and helped them update their profiles, rewrote the content and gave it to them. Now, whether they used it or not, that's their decision, but we made that effort.
Tell us about the role of continuously posting fresh content on your own profile. I know, obviously, that's something that's near and dear to my heart and a huge part of what I do for small businesses. But I find that the bigger businesses, medium to larger size businesses, they don't think about that. So tell us why if it's important, why it's important, and how salespeople can kind of stay on top of posting regular content.
So it's one thing to create the content and distribute it one time, right? But there's so much evergreen content that's out there. And you got to think about it. LinkedIn, I believe it's like 2 to 3 new members every minute. So something that you created and shared in Q3 of 2025 is going to be relevant to all these new people who join in Q4 of 2025, right? So I get the desire to make a lot of fresh and new, but you have so much that you can just repurpose in a way that speaks to the new members that are joining, especially for small businesses when the time is gold, right? You don't have time to do everything, and so if you've written an article, well, you can repurpose that not a million, but many ways, right? And I know you're the repurpose queen. And so sticking with that thought of it having to be fresh, yeah, it could be freshly presented.
Right.
So just, focus on quality content and making it fresh in different ways so that it can resonate with different audiences. Because you think about it, some members and a lot of members who are on LinkedIn are looking on it on their mobile device in meetings, right? So you're going to have people who will skim. So they're sitting there like this and they're skimming. And then you may have someone who posts a video. Well, they can't listen to the video. Those people get caught when their volume is up. So you got to make sure there's captions, right? And then some people just want to see an image. So you have the same content that can be presented 3 different ways to land with the folks that are not paying attention in their meetings when they should be. But yeah.
I think you bring up such a good point, which is your evergreen programs, right? Whatever they are, whatever your base offer is, whether it's a program or a product or whatever, be posting about it regularly. Because I think sometimes we're like, oh, I did that one already, I'm good. Right.
Yeah.
But because there's so many new people, make sure you have to refresh it a little bit, but don't forget to have that be on the calendar, right? On an ongoing basis so that you're getting those new people and just the people who it never showed up for from the algorithm. algorithm perspective, I know they say 10% of people actually see your posts, even if they're following you or friends with you or whatever.
Right.
And so it might not have caught them the first time.
But here's the other thing. We got to think about how we really are in real life. We have the attention spans of goldfish, right? So what I post today, if that 10% of my network saw it, next week they will have forgotten that I even posted that. So you can, in essence, keep reposting the same piece of content as weekly, because people will not remember. I mean, I tell people when, LinkedIn is so great for personal branding, right? If you are in need of a brand refresh for one reason or another, you can do it as many times as you like, because new people are going to see it. And the people who you're connected to probably missed the 3 rebrands you did earlier this year.
Now, is that the best use of your time?
No, it's
maybe
not.
But your point's true, right? People, we think that we're like, oh, I don't want to be annoying. Like, I already posted that, so I don't want to be too annoying and share it too much. But I'm going through a program right now, and you're actually going to be in it. I'm so excited. Shameless self-promotion. It's called the Podcast Launch Lab. And we're starting later this week. And I have allowed myself to be uncomfortable and reach out to people more times than I'm comfortable doing, because I went to a sales trainer and they taught me that that's what I should do. And I don't want to be a bother. And I tell people not to do this, but I've seen it even with me. But it's worked, right? Sometimes people need to hear it a couple extra times, even when they've said they're already interested. So think about when they're further up the sales funnel and they don't even know that they need it yet. They need to hear from you. The old adage is 7 times. Now it's, 30 times they need to see something before they're even willing to consider buying from you. Then just to get them over the finish line, there's so many more touch points, which is why I think something like Sales Navigator is so cool, because it helps you to sort of manage that almost like a basic CRM that you don't get in any of the other platforms.
That is very true. And one thing about Sales Navigator that you made me remember is you can actually keep notes for if it's going to be your CRM, right? Maybe you've got 3 employees who are using it. Yes, they can't cross-pollinate and share information, but at least they can keep track of their notes by date, because it'll show you your last outreach activity. You sent them an email or they commented. There's even a filter for people who have commented on your content.
So cool.
I mean, most people don't go through all the filters either. They go for the basic, their industry, their function, and probably, I would say, how long they've been with the company. And I'll give you another juicy tip. One of the best ones, I believe, is to look at decision makers. And decision makers in LinkedIn Sales Navigator terminology is anyone whose job title is a director, a vice president, a C-level executive, partner, owner. So I'll say it again. Director, vice president, C-level executive, partner, owner. So if you choose those, and partner owner is probably not necessary for this, but they're new in their role, less than a year, you can choose that duration. Your outreach to that person is going to be so much more valuable if you do it right, because they're in a position that they're trying to make a name for themselves. They are more open to changing vendors, systems, or whatever, so that they can make a mark. They're trying to get that quick win. So that's one of the things to think about.
I love that. We could sit here and talk all day about tips and tricks and all that. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom today. If people want to find you, how can they find you?
Well, obviously, you can find me on LinkedIn, but you can also find me on my website, which is www.ascentsocialcapital.com. Going under a little rebrand, so expect some new content to be coming on there really soon.
And on LinkedIn, they can find you Tamika, and then spell your last name.
So Tamika Brunetti, Tamika Brunetti is Brunetti. Or you can also go to my company page on LinkedIn, which is Ascent Social Capital. And Ascent is ASCENT.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.